Sometimes, it's the places that seem the most normal, the most everyday, that end up holding these really dark secrets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of where we're going today. We're looking at Villa Park, Illinois, seemingly peaceful suburb.
Right.
But back in 2007, it became the backdrop for this, well, truly shocking murder.
It did.
Rebecca Klein.
Yes.
The articles you sent over about this case
Mm-hmm.
really paint a disturbing picture.
Yeah?
A life cut short, a partner living this double life, and
Yeah.
accusations of just cold, calculated betrayal.
Absolutely. It's a chilling case. And we've got a good amount of material here to dig into.
Yeah.
Covering everything from the initial investigation,
Okay.
the trial, and then the sort of aftermath, the fallout.
So we're talking a deep dive here.
Yeah, definitely a deep dive.
All right, so let's try to break this down piece by piece, right?
Okay.
Our aim today is to really get to the bottom of this case.
Right.
We want to trace the timeline, see how everything unfolded.
Yeah.
We want to understand what these sources point to as the motives behind this horrific act.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we'll be looking at the evidence.
Of course.
The evidence that ultimately led to Nicole Abusharif's conviction.
Right.
And, as always, we got to acknowledge those lingering questions.
Absolutely. There are always those loose ends, those things that make you think.
Exactly. So where does this whole unsettling story even begin?
Well, the story starts back in March of 2007.
Okay.
Rebecca Klein, who had been with her partner, Nicole Abusharif, for 7 years,
7 years. Okay.
disappears.
Right.
She's reported missing on March 16th.
Okay.
And it was Abusharif who reported her missing.
And then just the next day.
Yeah, the very next day.
Okay.
Tragically, they discover Rebecca's body,
Oh, wow.
and it's in the trunk of her own car, her 1966 Ford Mustang,
Oh, in her own car.
parked in the garage of the home they shared.
It's a horrifying discovery.
Awful, just awful.
And the details about how she was found, it's
Yeah.
truly disturbing.
It's a grim scene, really grim.
Found with duct tape, a bandana, gagged, blindfolded, suffocated with a plastic bag.
It really points to, a very deliberate and violent act.
Absolutely.
No question about that.
And it seems the police, they wasted no time
No, they didn't.
focusing their attention on Nicole Abusharif.
They had their suspicions right away.
Just 4 days after finding Rebecca's body, they charge Abusharif with first-degree murder.
First-degree murder, that's significant.
Yeah.
That suggests they believe this wasn't just a killing, it was premeditated.
Intentional.
Intentional,
Yeah.
exactly. And they also charged her with concealing a homicide.
Okay, so based on those early stages of the investigation, police believe that the murder took place on March 15th,
That's right.
which really brings up the huge question.
That's
Why?
right.
Yeah. What would drive someone to do something so horrific?
Well, and the articles do point to some potential answers.
Okay.
Some possible factors at play.
And one of the biggest ones seems to be another woman in the picture.
That's right.
This 19-year-old Rose Sodaro,
19 years old.
who Abusharif had met, online, on MySpace.
It's interesting how often those online connections come up in these cases.
Right.
And what's really striking here is the timing.
Okay.
We're talking about a murder that allegedly happened on March 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And that very same night,
The same night.
Abusharif is out bowling, going to bars with Sodaro,
Wow.
even bringing her back to the house afterwards.
Back to the house where?
To the house where
Oh, my God.
it's a chilling level of deception if you think about it.
Absolutely.
To be carrying on like that
Yeah.
while your partner.
Under partners.
Yeah.
God, it's awful.
And from what I read, it goes even deeper than that.
Oh, yeah.
Abusharif really went to these extraordinary lengths to keep Rebecca in the dark about this relationship with Sodaro.
Right.
Actually leading Sodaro to believe that Rebecca was just a roommate.
Just a roommate.
Just a roommate.
The level of manipulation, the lies, it's all there in the articles. It's mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, it really makes you question how well you can ever truly know someone. Right?
Right. And these lies, they weren't just about her relationship status.
No, not at all.
The articles detail all these elaborate stories Abusharif would allegedly spin.
Like fabricated stories
Oh, yeah.
to make herself seem, I don't know, more interesting, more tragic maybe.
Oh,
She told Sodaro she was a New York City firefighter during 9/11.
wow.
Claimed she had liver cancer, even went as far as staging this dramatic casket selection
What?
at a funeral home with Sodaro.
A casket selection.
Yeah, could you believe that?
It's beyond bizarre.
Completely fabricated all of it.
And then, on top of all these lies, there's this manipulation, this attempt to control the narrative.
Right.
Abusharif even allegedly told Sodaro to lie to the police about their relationship.
Trying to cover her tracks.
Exactly. So we've got this incredibly tangled web of deceit.
Mm-hmm.
But the articles point to another possible motive, and it's a pretty powerful one.
Right.
Money.
Ah, yes, the financial angle.
Right. The sources mention these substantial life insurance policies.
Substantial.
Yeah, on Rebecca Klein.
It was a considerable sum, around $400,000 in total,
$400,000.
between the life insurance and the mortgage insurance.
Wow.
And that was the key element of the prosecution's case, you know.
Okay.
The argument being that Abusharif stood to gain a lot financially if Rebecca died.
So they're suggesting this wasn't just a crime of passion or something.
No. Okay. They were painting a picture of a calculated plan with a financial motive at its core.
And this wasn't even an isolated incident, was it?
That's right.
One of the articles mentions Abusharif having profited from like 8
Yeah.
previous insurance claims.
8.
Yeah, I mean, that has to raise some eyebrows, right?
It certainly does.
It suggests a pattern, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests a certain familiarity with how insurance payouts work, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So we've got these potential motives laid out, but what about the hard evidence?
Well, let's talk about that. The prosecution had more than just motives to work with.
Okay, good.
They had forensic evidence, and it was pretty damning.
Like what?
Well, they found fingerprints.
Okay.
Fingerprints that matched Abusharif.
On the duct tape.
On the duct tape, yeah.
Then the plastic bag.
And the plastic bag that was used, to suffocate Rebecca.
Right.
And they also found DNA evidence
Okay.
on the bandana used to gag her.
And it was her DNA.
It was a match for Abusharif.
So they had her connected to the actual murder weapons, basically.
In a very direct way, yes.
And beyond that, there was also the issue of the car keys, right?
Ah, yes, the keys.
The keys to the Mustang.
The keys to the trunk of the Mustang, specifically.
Where they found Rebecca's body.
Exactly. And Abusharif had both keys.
She had both keys.
Both keys, yeah.
So she had control over where the body ended up.
That certainly seems that way.
And then, of course, there were the lies.
The lies were a major problem for her, no doubt. She admitted to lying to the police
About
her whereabouts that night and about her relationship with Sodaro.
those lies, I mean, they really must have damaged her credibility in court.
Absolutely. It makes it hard to believe anything else you say, doesn't it?
Right, right. Now, the investigation also brought in this other person, Robert L. Edwards.
Abusharif's co-worker.
Yeah, coworker.
He ended up getting charged with 5 counts of obstructing justice.
5 counts?
Yeah, in November of 2008.
What did he do?
Well, he was giving false information to the police,
Okay.
lying about his whereabouts around the time of the murder,
Okay.
and he also lied about his relationship with Abusharif.
What did he say?
Initially, he claimed they were just casual work acquaintances.
Right.
But later, he admitted that they were more than that.
More than that. How?
He said they were, and I'm quoting here, drug buddies who shared wild sex fantasies.
Wow. Okay. So definitely trying to downplay his connection to her.
Yeah, it seems like he was trying to distance himself.
But it backfired.
It did.
He was convicted.
Yeah, he was convicted on those obstruction charges.
And sentenced to 75 days in a work camp.
75 days.
But the articles also say that the police didn't think he was actually involved in Rebecca's murder.
That's right. They made a distinction there.
Okay.
His actions hindered the investigation, for sure. But they didn't believe he took part in the killing itself.
So he was a side note, really, in the grand scheme of things.
In a way, yes.
Okay, so then we get to Nicole Abusharif's trial.
Right, which started in April of 2009.
And from what I gathered, her defense team really focused on this idea that she couldn't have physically overpowered Rebecca.
That was their main argument, yeah.
They were saying it was just impossible.
They pointed to the significant weight difference between the two women.
Rebecca was bigger.
Much bigger, yeah. She weighed about 40 pounds more than Abusharif.
40 pounds? Wow.
And they also brought up Abusharif's history of back problems.
So their argument was she just wouldn't have been able to overpower Rebecca, tie her up, put her body in the trunk.
Physically incapable? That was their claim.
Interesting. And they also tried to paint a different picture of their relationship, didn't they?
They did.
Suggesting it wasn't your typical monogamous partnership.
Right, they used the word unconventional
Unconventional.
to describe it.
Implying that maybe infidelity was something they both accepted or at least tolerated.
It was a way of explaining away the relationship with Sidaro.
And Abusharif herself testified, right?
She did, yeah.
Admitted to lying, but denied killing Rebecca,
She stuck to that story about their open relationship,
saying Rebecca knew about Sidaro.
that they had an understanding.
But the prosecution had Ray Sidaro's testimony to counter that, right?
Exactly. And Sidaro was very clear in her testimony
Okay.
about all the lies Abusharif had fed her,
And about believing Rebecca was just a roommate.
which really undermined Abusharif's whole claim about Rebecca knowing and accepting the affair.
Right, right. And I'm sure hearing from Rebecca's family must have been impactful for the jury, too.
Oh, absolutely.
They would have offered a completely different perspective on the relationship.
A more intimate perspective, for sure.
Yeah. And in the end, the prosecution really hammered home those two main points: the physical evidence tying Abusharif to the murder and the potential motives.
The affair and the insurance money, yeah.
Right. And after a long trial and 13 hours of deliberation, the jury came back with a verdict.
Guilty of first-degree murder
Guilty.
in May of 2009.
And then a couple of months later, she was sentenced.
50 years in prison, no parole.
50 years. Why?
That was in July of 2009.
And the judge, Judge Kinsella, his statement at the sentencing, it really highlighted this pursuit of justice for Rebecca Klein.
Yeah, he made it clear that this was a serious crime, a devastating loss,
Yeah.
and that Abusharif would be held accountable.
It definitely felt like a case that weighed heavily on everyone involved.
You could sense that, yeah.
And the legal proceedings, they didn't end there, did they?
No, Abusharif appealed her conviction
And
and
that's
lost.
lost the appeal.
The Illinois Appellate Court upheld the original verdict in 2011.
So it seems pretty clear-cut, at least legally speaking.
Yeah, she was convicted based on the evidence, and that conviction was upheld on appeal.
But there's this one question that lingers, right?
There is, yeah.
Did she act alone?
It's interesting, even back when she was arrested, there were some in law enforcement who doubted whether she could have pulled it off alone.
Because of her size, her back?
Right, they just didn't see how she could have overpowered Rebecca, bound her, moved the body all by herself.
So was there someone else involved?
It's a possibility the articles raise.
But they don't give us a definitive answer.
No, they don't.
So we're left with that unanswered
A
question.
bit of a mystery.
And of course, we have to acknowledge the impact this tragedy had on everyone involved.
On the families, yeah.
Rebecca's family, obviously, suffering this incredible loss.
A loss they'll never truly recover from.
And Abusharif's family, too. I mean, can you imagine the shock?
The betrayal, the grief, it must have been unimaginable.
To have your own daughter capable of something so horrific.
It just goes to show that these cases, they have ripple effects. They
Yeah.
touch so many lives, and the pain goes far beyond the immediate victim and the perpetrator.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
The tragic death of Rebecca Klein, the investigation, the trial, the conviction of Nicole Abusharif.
And the lasting questions.
Right, the evidence, the motives, the relationships, it all adds up to this really complex and disturbing story.
It's a reminder that things aren't always what they seem, is it?
No, it really isn't, and it makes you think about the dark side of human nature.
The lengths people will go to for love, for money, for whatever it is they desire.
It's a chilling thought. What are your takeaways from this case?
For me, it's the deception, the layers upon layers of lies.
And how easily those lies can unravel, leading to devastating consequences.
Exactly.
It really does make you wonder about the hidden complexities that exist in people's lives.
The things we keep hidden, the secrets we bury.
And how those secrets can ultimately lead to tragedy.
It's a reminder to be cautious, to be aware, to not take things at face value.
Absolutely. Well, that's our deep dive for today. We've explored a case that's both fascinating and deeply unsettling. It's a story that raises important questions about trust, betrayal, and the dark side of human nature. As always, we encourage you to continue the conversation, to share your own thoughts and interpretations of this case, and most importantly, to stay vigilant, because sometimes the most ordinary places can hide the most extraordinary secrets.